Hello and welcome to Batshit, because we're batshit about The Bachelor. You may have noticed we're back to our regular cast here. We have Kristin back from vacation. And Kristin, I just have to ask you, how was it on the other side, watching as a viewer?
Oh my gosh. Your mom was phenomenal. She did an amazing job. I loved her sweater. You guys, it was awesome to see a different dynamic. It was awesome to see a different personality. And she noticed a lot of things that I didn't notice. So like the Daisy wearing Joey's jacket when they were horseback riding.
Oh yeah, she's the one who noticed.
She noticed that.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that. And I watched the episode and I didn't notice. And she also mentioned Jen pulling him to play the piano, and then Jen also pulling him on that kind of lumberjack group date to kiss him. And I was like, whoa, look at these hot takes coming out of the woodwork. Like, what are we? So I love that.
Kelly's got it going on now.
She did an amazing job. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should just let her take over. You know, she knows what's up.
Yeah, maybe, but I guess we'll have to see how often you're going on vacation in the future.
That's true. Well, fill me in. What did you guys drink last time?
So last time we had a smoked old-fashioned ready, like a cocktail to go, as they're called. So it was very woody and kind of smoky.
Okay,
and it works great for being in Jasper, right?
Oh, and wasn't the scenery just like breathtaking?
It was stunning.
And
it really was.
Oh my gosh, it was such a beautiful place.
So that leads us perfectly in today's cocktail party. We have something a little bit more standard, I would say. And this will kind of give you a little bit of perspective in my mind, I guess. So, I was thinking, it's hometowns. What am I going to do? There's really not any core focus. It's 4 different people's places. So what am I going to do? So I was thinking about the action of, taking somebody home. And the first thing my mind went to was country club. You're meeting your dad playing a round of golf.
Okay.
I don't know why I went to that.
Do you play golf? Does your dad play golf?
He does play golf, but and I used to in the past, but I don't know why I went to that, because it's I don't really have any experience with country clubs, honestly. But that's the first thing I just jumped to, is just country club, and you're on hole 7, and you're just slamming back some Arnold Palmers. But since it's cocktail hour, we obviously got some John Daly inspired things. So is that really contrived? Sure. But that's the first thing my mind jumped to for this episode. So that's what we have. And we got the John Daily type of inspired drinks.
That's awesome. You know what I was thinking is, I was like, okay, Arizona is a state. Mm-hmm. We're going to a variety of states. So
I might even be more contrived than what I had.
But I like yours.
Yeah.
The golfing dad.
Yeah, and you're meeting all of the dads, and they're just here, come join me. And, a lot of the movies are oh, yeah, we're going to go hunting or go golfing or boating or whatever. So that's kind of where my mind jumped to. But anyway, I guess we can jump into this episode now. So what's your takes overall?
Wow. Well, as much as I want to jump to the end, I'll withhold myself.
That was the best part.
So what did I think? Oh my gosh, there was a lot. I mean, first of all, and I know that I wasn't here last week, but we both said that Rachel was going to go home. So then when he gave Rachel the rose instead of Jen, I was like, what?
I was too. I was shocked.
So I was shocked. And then I think we both kind of saw Kelsey T going home, so that wasn't a surprise. So Rachel getting into, the top 4. And then Rachel getting into the top 3.
He must really like her. I just, I don't know.
Wow.
I just didn't see it, but oh well.
So, and I'm not saying I don't like Rachel. I'm just saying I was way off on that one. So yeah, I mean, just a lot of shocking emotions in this episode is what summarizes it for me.
And I mean, I'll give you this take now, and this isn't originally my take. I heard it, one of my friends who watches the show told me about this, and I haven't been able to shake it. She doesn't think that that any of these girls are good for him, and that he's not really that interested in any of them. And the more I thought about it, and the more I was just watching his face look at them, I'm just not seeing it.
I completely agree.
I can't shake it at this point. With Daisy a little bit, but normally at this point you can tell they want, this person, and they just have that look in their face when they're looking at somebody, and I just don't see it. He just Daisy's gushing her heart out or whatever, and he's just like, he just has this like neutral look on his face.
Right. Or they're like, I'm falling in love with you. And it's interesting because no one has said I love you. I think everyone has said I'm falling in love.
Yeah. And I feel like, is that slower than normal?
I feel like they usually are saying I love you at this, like not the the
Hopefully
Bachelor
not,
or the Bachelorette, right? Well, right. But the contestants usually are saying I'm falling in love with you pre-hometown, right? And then hometown, they're saying I love you. And I feel like we got no I love yous. We got I'm falling in love with you.
Yeah, there's like 4 of those.
Right, from everybody. And so, yeah, I mean, I completely actually agree with this person. I feel like he's not that into them. And to be honest, I don't know if they're really super into him. I mean, and I think they are, but like, you're right. It's not like the goo goo gaga, I'm obsessed with you look.
It's just like, it feels more like contained and real than it normally is, because people are much more holding back. I mean, like 2 or 3 of the dads all said that. They were like, you got to put yourself out there and, really like, show what you've got. Otherwise, this is never going to happen for you. And which is really bizarre because normally the parents don't say that.
Right.
And that got me kind of fired up anyway, but we can talk about that in a minute. And so, because it was just strange because, Rachel's parents were just like, yeah, I don't really know. I mean, there's other women there, which is like, that seems like a normal thing to say to me.
Right.
But it's like, oh, this is so untraditional. I'm just like, bro, like nobody does this for a reason.
Right.
So.
Well, I feel like in the past, there's always one family that's like kind of controversial, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like every family this time was very like, I care about my kid. Hey, kid, you should open up. Or, hey, be aware that there's other girls. Like it was, everyone was kind of, pretty neutral.
Yeah.
I guess. And I mean, the families were all great, but like there was no family that was like, whoa, that's wildly unexpected, or I don't know if anybody like pushed their kid or Joey as far as what has happened in previous seasons.
Yeah, I don't think so. And I think that's just because things are more neutral. People are holding back. And I kind of feel like Joey's holding a lot back, too, is he's trying too hard to be, or maybe he's trying hard enough to be, perfect or whatever. And that's causing him to hold back. Like, they all like him, but it's just like, it's not there like it is in previous seasons for whatever reason.
Do you think that he, like, truly cares about someone there and he is just, like, holding back? Or do you think he's kind of like, yeah, deep down, I know that none of these are really my person, but I feel obligated to choose one because I'm the Bachelor?
I feel like he's so scared and so in his head that, yeah, he doesn't feel like there's somebody there because he's talked himself out of it.
Okay, because you're right. Since episode 1, he was saying, well, they're going to leave me. They're going to leave me. And I feel like if you keep telling yourself anything, then you're just going to believe it to be true.
He sent
so
himself
then he's
home.
Just going to believe, oh, it doesn't matter who I pick. They're not going to stay anyways.
I feel like he kind of believes it, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I really do.
And the previews are making it look that way. But, I feel like the previews, who knows what to believe with those.
Yeah, and we'll get into that in a minute. So we can go into the first date now, which was Kelsey's date. We don't have to say Kelsey A anymore.
True, yeah.
Yeah, so and they were in New Orleans for that. And first thing I have to say about that is I saw her parents' house, and I was like, damn, that house looks dope. And it looked like it was in the old part of town.
Yeah.
So that's, to me, expensive.
Yeah, yeah. I think that, well, when Kelsey A was talking to her, Kelsey was talking to her dad, one-on-one, and Kelsey was saying, thank you so much for stepping up as a dad and taking care of all of us, I was like full-blown crying.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It was pulling at my heartstrings. It just was so, and she was crying and her dad was crying, and it was just like such a heartfelt moment.
There was a lot of crying this episode.
And I do know that I've kind of been team Kelsey A since the beginning, which I can see a connection between them. I personally think, controversial, Kelsey A is a little boring. But I'm saying that because she's just kind of more quiet, but I could just see a connection. And And it's interesting because I could see the connection from the beginning, even though she was a little.
You think she's quiet? She was the one who wanted to go in the polar plunge and like.
She did, yeah. I mean, I just feel like she has kind of a more like a softer personality, which I think can be when you look at people like Maria and even Rachel, they have very bold personalities. So they kind of are just more of a presence in a room, at least through the TV screen, than maybe somebody like Kelsey A or Kelsey T.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, I mean, maybe I shouldn't use the word boring, but they kind of like get pushed to the sidelines a little bit when it comes to these bigger personalities, I think.
Yeah, they're probably not perfect TV people.
Yeah. But, I mean, still, Kelsey A could make it, and maybe they have a good connection, and
I don't think he's going to make it with anybody. I really don't. I can't, and thanks for that.
Oh yeah,
she knows who she is at this point, but they told me that, and that's why I looked at the camera for a second. But I can't get it out of my head at this point.
Well, what my friend told me today that I thought was very interesting is that she said, "Who's your favorite?" I said Maria, and I said I didn't love Maria. Then there was a turning point. Now I'm like obsessed, full blown obsessed with Maria. And she said, that's a controversial opinion. Not a lot of people agree with you. And it's interesting because I feel like you and I have both liked Maria the entire time. So it's interesting that according to her...
you were the whole time.
Well, I wasn't the whole time. You were the whole time. Then I jumped on board. But it's interesting because she said that according to her friends, that's like none of them really are on board with Maria and haven't been like the whole show. So I thought that was interesting.
Maria's the most real person there, honestly, like by a long shot. Because she made a few like really big mistakes, and that cost her. Because she got dumped for 2 things she did. But we can hold on to that in just a second.
Breaks my heart.
Yeah. So that was Kelsey's date. I mean, I don't really feel like it was that eventful or anything. I think we kind of left off where, I mean, it was, it was hard to see her family and that loss she took and whatnot, but I don't really feel like it changed the status quo in that relationship at all.
Right. The other thing I wanted to mention that I noticed about Kelsey A is there's been 3 dates with her, right? Because she had a one-on-one in Spain where they walked around the town.
Yeah.
Then she had a one-on-one in Jasper, right?
Yeah, I think so.
They walked around the town, and then it was her hometown date. They walked around New Orleans. I feel like there's been nothing crazy. And these other dates like Cirque du Soleil and, there's like crazy dates. So it's interesting that hers are just like very normal. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's...
I mean, they sound like fun to me.
Well, true, but they're just very like... I guess they're very real, so maybe it gives them an opportunity to build a stronger connection versus a Cirque du Soleil date or like a bungee jumping date or something, right? Like maybe it's a little bit harder to build a connection in dates where you're doing an intense activity like that. So, I mean, maybe he has a strong relationship with her because they've actually spent a lot of time together.
Yeah.
I
mean, I'm thrilled this season they didn't do any of the stupid like photo shoot dates or like the bungee jumping date or the skydiving date or whatever, where inevitably they pick out whichever person's the most uncomfortable to do. And it's like, you should take them on this date. They'll love it.
Right. Well, and the other thing is the shopping date. I feel like usually they come back with like multiple bags and shoes and it's like a whole thing. And even Maria's shopping date, she came back with like a dress.
Yeah.
And that was kind of it. And so it was interesting that it wasn't quite as extravagant in the experience it was extravagant, but in the after effect of what she actually got to bring home, it seemed kind of blah compared to previous seasons.
That leads in perfectly to the next date because, it was Rachel's family, right?
Yes.
And it said her hometown was Hawaii or...
It was California.
Yeah, and she even mentioned something about how they came in to California.
Right. I was like, they couldn't go to Hawaii.
And I'm like, ABC's being cheap.
Yeah. What's going on,
or maybe
ABC?
It was a logistics thing or whatever. But
they got to get KFC to help promote a pool party. They can't do the shopping date.
They could get? Like,
I know. And then I heard your HelloFresh. Yeah. I didn't see that, but Now they're doing commercials. I mean,
at least HelloFresh makes like some level of sense to me. Like KFC, I'm just like, I don't know who you think you're like marketing to here.
right.
But we're still talking about it, so maybe it worked.
True. Yeah, very true.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Her date looked like fun.
Yeah. And I like that they kind of spent, it was interesting because I feel like some dates were during the day and then he met the family at night. And I like that what I'm assuming is she was like, nope, I want the whole date with my family. And I feel like sometimes hometowns, it's like, we're going to do an activity together and then you'll meet my family. And this was just full blown family all day. And I mean, she had a big family, so I feel like that made sense. It allowed him to meet, a lot of people more so than if they just had a couple hours together. And so I thought that was really cool. And she seems to have a really awesome, loving family. And yeah, that was fun to see.
Yeah, and I mean, I liked how she, coached him before with like, you're gonna have to do these various cultural things and whatever, which was nice to see. What got me hot on this date was I'm sitting there looking at this and thinking like, how is anybody actually doing this for real? Like, she's going on about how, she got heartbroken or whatever, and she didn't really want it to happen again. And I'm just thinking like, do you expect to go on the show to just not get your ass dumped like constantly? And I don't know how you couldn't think that going onto the show. Like your odds are so low, and I feel like it's hard enough anyway to be like, I'm gonna open up to somebody, and one dumb thing you say there is gonna get you dumped. But not only now, it's just like one dumb thing you're gonna do is gonna get you dumped, but then like that's even compounded so many times because it's just now you look like a total jackass to everybody on TV, and
right.
And then you get to watch it over again to like look at all these mistakes you made the whole way through and how you couldn't get it. And it just like either like these people are acting because they just, or like they're so emotionally prepared to just get dumped. And I just like can't see it.
Well, I think that at the beginning, probably prior to like top 5, maybe.
Yeah.
They're all like, we're probably going to get dumped. We're probably going to get dumped. But then I think like when you're in top 4, top 5, you're probably like, maybe I need to take this seriously. And I think when you're in top 4, especially when there's hometowns going on, I feel like you almost have to like act like no other girl exists at that point.
I just don't know how you couldn't. The whole thing, it's just like a charade. You're there with your family and they're like, oh, I'm so happy to see you. And it's like, it just feels so weird to me. The more like I came crashing into like reality this episode instead of just pretending this like fake world we're in. I'm just like, how is anybody actually doing this?
Well, sometimes after the hometowns, when they put them together for like fantasy suite dates, like make the girls spend the night in the same hotel room for fantasy suites.
Ew.
That would be
the exact same room?
Like in the same, yeah, I think they have done that in the past. I think sometimes they give them each their own room, but there has been seasons where they're all like in whatever, the same, I don't know, cabin or whatever. So they know, oh, she spent the night. Oh, she came back. She's really in a good mood. Yeah, and I'm about to go on my date. Cool.
Yeah, that
would be torture.
The whole thing is like you're showing them to your family like, oh, he's so great. And it's just like, I don't know. I just like, I don't see how you can put yourself out there like that. And maybe I'm just being super jaded right now, but I just don't see how you can put yourself out there to just know like this whole time you're not taking it seriously. And then eventually you realize like, oh, this is kind of serious now. But then, you've got this like boogeyman behind you with all the other people there.
Right. Well, I think that's why a lot of them don't last, to be honest with you. I think in that moment, it's probably very mentally and emotionally hard to go through. Then afterwards, you have to watch the episodes because you're interviewed about them. So you have to be able to like speak to the interview. And also they're probably like, did you know that whatever, and you kind of like, you don't want to find out in an interview and be caught off guard. Yeah. So you kind of have to watch the episodes to know how to respond. And that would be torture to watch the person that you're now dating, like go on all these dates and kiss all these other girls. And to me, it's just kind of like a recipe for a failed relationship. I mean, that's a lot to go through. It's a lot to go through in the experience and after the experience.
Yeah.
And I think especially now with social media and people commenting and, so on top of like your own insecurities that you're dealing with, you're also dealing with like a lot of external
Stuff,
comments, which I think is just overwhelming for a human being to deal with alone. And it's hard to look to your partner because there's probably a lot of tension there. I would
just be like, I don't know, I would kind of feel angry, just like you were doing
Yeah.
that with so-and-so and like whatever. And like,
Right. Or like you got to go skydiving. Like, why didn't you take me skydiving? Or, I mean, I don't know. Like the list
I'd
could
be
go on and
thrilled
on.
if I didn't go on the skydiving thing. But
Yeah.
anyway, so me being triggered over until we get to later.
Okay.
Do you have anything else to say about that second hometown date there?
About the Rachel date?
Yeah.
No, I think she had a great family. Yeah, she has a lot of people that love her. I think they were all just very realistic,
Yeah. It seemed totally fine.
which is great. Yeah.
And then we get into Daisy's date, which I really loved this one, the Christmas tree farm. And
Yep.
she seems so excited to be there. And I feel like she kind of genuinely feels something towards him, but it just feels like there's like some wall that they can't get past.
Right.
Even after the fact.
Right. Yeah. But it was cool to be on the Christmas tree farm. And it was cool to meet her friends.
Yeah, that was cute because that seems like an actual surprise to her.
Yeah. Yeah, and Joey got to meet her friends and then, her family after that. So, yeah, of course, we knew that we were going to go to the Christmas tree farm since day one. Since, I feel like the second she came out of the limo, we're
she's too good not to
we
make it
know
this
we're going to see the
far.
Christmas tree farm. And it's interesting because was it your mom that said, well, I guess your mom was like, I don't know if she's going to be the Bachelorette, right?
I'm
not saying she's not going to be, but just, I mean, and what's kind of unfortunate is now I'm almost so set on her being the Bachelorette that I feel like if it's anyone else, I'm going to be like a little caught off guard.
Yeah. I mean, I just I feel like looking at the three women there, she is the objectively correct choice for him at this point out of the three. They
Right.
just seem the most excited together and and as I've mentioned a handful of times, he's so just withdrawn for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, maybe that's just how he looks, but
Right.
he just seems like he's holding back so much, and I think that's destroying him.
Well, and I think him holding back is probably causing the women to hold back.
Yeah.
And, also not really creating the most comfortable environment for them to open up.
Yeah, I think he's trying so hard to make them feel comfortable that he's accidentally doing something he doesn't intend to do.
Right. The other thing I wanted to bring up, and we can do this moving forward too, is, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember him asking Kelsey A's dad for her hand, but he asked Rachel's dad for her hand, and Rachel's dad kind of was like, oh, call me before you do it, and we'll have a discussion. So he didn't really say yes or no. And then, now we're going into, oh my gosh, whose date are we talking about?
We're in Daisy's date.
Okay, Daisy. I don't think he asked about Daisy either.
I don't think so, but honestly, that they could have just cut it out.
They could have, but that's a pretty important part to leave in there. And it's weird to have it in some and not have it in others. That's a little, it's throwing me off a little bit. Because I'm like, wait, is this supposed to be telling us something?
Watch Rachel just come out of nowhere and win this.
Yeah. Wow.
Nobody was a believer. And she's coming in hot as a winner.
I know that. Well, wow. I would feel dumb.
Honestly, the longer this goes on, the more I'm thinking that has to be the case.
Did you watch Katie's season, Katie Thurston?
I did not.
There was this guy Justin on her season. He got no airtime. The next thing you know, he's the top 2. And you're like, who's this guy? This guy should have been sent home night 1. And he made it like all the way. And I mean, funny now, I'm like a huge fan and he's awesome and he's great. But it was just hilarious that he kind of popped out of nowhere. And Rachel's kind of similar, but Rachel's had way more airtime than this guy.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's still kind of like a hidden contender a little bit.
She was a really slow burn for a long time.
Right. Well, but it's interesting that producers do that knowing that they know that person's in the top.
Yeah.
So why are they not giving him a bunch of airtime? It's a little weird.
I don't know. It's all mind games. And they're playing games with these people and they're playing games with the audience too.
Yeah.
So they don't want you to like think you know, but it's all about telling a story, like the love story or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know how you get that good of a story if she's like winner, because I feel like they could have shown a lot of stuff that maybe happened that would make you think like, yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
But at least right now I'm just not seeing it. Like nothing against her. She seems great, but I was shocked. I was not shocked this time. I was expecting her to make it, but
Okay. All right.
And so I mean, I was a little surprised with both Daisy and Maria's father just being like, "Yeah, you just got to put yourself out there, just deal with it." And I was like, "What?"
Yeah. Yeah. So you're right. Let's go back to Daisy's date. So they go on the Christmas tree farm. They meet her friends. They go to meet her family. Her family's great. We knew that, of course. And I don't think he asked her dad, but pretty exact date of what I was expecting.
It was. The one thing that was really sweet is she said, whether this works out or not, it really showed me that like I have a lot of value regardless of, my ability to hear or not. And I can put myself forward going there. And just how she was speaking, it felt real to me. Yeah.
The other thing is after she said that, it made me think, even if she was offered the Bachelorette, would she say no just because, this is the first person she's dated since she's been sick, really? And this is a lot to go through. And even she said she went on the concert date, way back when, and was kind of struggling, on that date. So then you wonder, making this person super famous.
Well, she already is.
True. She probably does have the most followers out of all of them anyways. Would that be an environment that she would want to put herself in?
I mean, one would hope that she's not if she's the lead, that she's not going to be forced into like doing a bunch of stuff that's hard for her or she's uncomfortable with. That's what all the contestants are for, is making them miserable, not you.
Right. So. Yeah. I feel like being a contestant is, and being even the main person is hard enough, Yeah.
It's like all a mental experiment that like they could do at some like university or something, but it'd probably be considered unethical. Yeah. Like, because they're all playing these games and like all of them are acting like this is so emotionally challenging and damaging.
Yeah.
Like, they all act that way.
I believe that.
And so I kind of feel like it is. I mean, her date pretty much went the way I expected it to. Yeah. I was surprised that her dad's like, yeah, just go for it. I mean, like, whatever. I mean, like, if you get your heart broken, like, you tried.
Right. It was like, oh, okay.
I'm like, all right, dude. So now we get into, really what people wanted to talk about. The interesting stuff. We get into Maria's day.
Maria.
Right out of the gate, they are leaning into exactly what I said. I'm like, I looked at this guy. I'm just like, yeah, this guy's giving me hard Godfather vibes. And they're like, they're playing the, like the Italian, mob type of music and whatnot. And just like how he's talking and stuff and like how he looks. And I'm like, yeah, okay. We're not the only ones who saw this. And I mean, kind of outside of that, in that one clip, he seemed like he's a pretty normal dude. But But just by looks, you're just like, okay.
Right. No, and he was just like, oh, make your own decision and, open up more. And I was like, oh, I was expecting some more controversy.
Yeah, and the one thing that I found controversial personally was he's just like, yeah, Maria's the most important person to me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, hey, bro, you've got like your two sons over there. Like, and they're like right there. I mean, like that's kind of a stinger.
And they're probably like, we knew she was the favorite.
Well, maybe it's because she like, almost died.
Yeah, so true. So she kind of has that. Yeah. Well, And I also want to talk about, so Niagara Falls, that was beautiful. And they went on Niagara Falls and then got out and they weren't soaking wet.
I don't think they actually went that close because I figured they would show the shot because they love showing that shot.
Of course, yeah.
Why wouldn't you? And they didn't show it. Like, I don't think they got that close.
Right. Yeah. And then they went to talk afterwards. They're perfectly dry. I wanted them to just be, I wanted to see Maria just really in a very emotional, kind of distraught.
What do you think of her pants?
Her pants?
They were really weird to me. Like, they were really bizarre. They had the
here's my thing with Maria. You know, at the beginning, boobs always. Too much boobs all the time. And that's why I wasn't a fan. Then I feel like she started to cover up her boobs. Her stomach is always exposed now.
Oh, even now. And I'm like, isn't it cold? She's wearing like a jacket.
Yeah, and then they were on the lumberjack date. She's wearing a belly shirt, but a long sleeve shirt and pants and a jacket. But you know what? I'd rather see stomach than see boobs. The boobs were too much for me personally. So, you know, her outfits are just always revealing. I didn't notice anything. I thought she was just wearing leggings. No.
I mean they weren't revealing in any way outside of like any ordinary jeans, but like they had like I think like ties or something on them.
Oh, okay.
On like both sides, and I just like never seen something like that before, and it's like this is something she would wear.
Well, and her purple dress during the rose ceremony.
I thought it looked pretty good.
Had a bunch of ties on it also. So like I see what you're saying. That's just her vibe. Where it's like, if I saw that in a store, I would never try that on.
I'm telling you, just like go back and look at it, and you'll just be like, okay, I see. I'm not like totally insane. I mean, like I didn't have a problem with it. I'm like, that's something she would wear.
It was like corset like.
I mean, it wasn't like pulling anything close together, but yeah, it had that type of like ties or something.
Oh my gosh,
like, on the sides funny. And like right down the center of the butt too. And I just like I was like staring at it. I'm like, is this real?
Wow.
I think so, at least. I mean, maybe I'm just insane, but that's
okay.
What it looks like
well, I need to. It sounds like something she would definitely wear.
She definitely would, and like I don't think it was like any more or less scandalous than anything else. I've just like never seen something like that.
Yeah, ties down the butt.
Maybe I'm just full of shit, but
I don't know. This sounds like it's real. Sounds like it's a thing. I believe it.
So they have their little, chat, right?
Yes. So going back to last week, do you think that she kind of, without going to the end of this episode, kind of shot herself in the foot by having that conversation with him in his room?
She shot herself in the head. Like there's no foot there. She just shot herself in the head from that.
Okay, so yeah, why do you think that is?
What is Joey's biggest insecurity? Mm-hmm. Getting his ass dumped because for whatever reason he doesn't think he's good enough, or whatever it is.
Right.
That is his biggest insecurity. Period.
Yep.
What does she decide to do?
Serving that up on a silver platter and giving it straight to him.
And the thing is, like, I don't blame her. Honestly, because like, and I said this earlier, I feel like she's the most real person there.
Yeah.
Because I don't see how you wouldn't feel that way if you actually care at all about this person. And so like, and that was the mistake she made that screwed her. Mm-hmm. And it only got worse later.
Right.
And because he said, he's like, I have so many questions. I don't think he had a single question in his mind.
Oh, so you think after that? Oh, about her. And then when they had the talk, then he had a lot of questions.
Yeah, it went from like, I'm 100% confident. Like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I mean, he tried to force that conversation with her at the beginning of the last rose ceremony.
Yeah.
And I think he just like, he's just like, I'm going to give her another chance. He just wanted to make sure she said what he wanted to hear. But I think that was it for her at that point. Like, she's never going to win after that.
Okay, so you think last rose ceremony, even though he pulled her to the side, he already, the trust was broken.
And I don't think she could get it back.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so they have that talk. So you think the talk after Niagara Falls is kind of just fluff?
I mean, she needed to do it, and she knew what situation she was in, but I don't think it gained her anything.
Okay. And then going to hometowns, which, I mean, we'll talk about her hometown date in a second, but at the end of hometown, she didn't say, you know, I love you or I'm falling in love with you.
Oh my gosh, this triggered me so much. Because like I just like saw that, and just the way she was speaking, how awkward it was. I'm like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. You have to say something. If you don't, you're gonna fuck yourself.
Yep.
And I sent you a text saying that even. Like, and I knew it was gonna happen. And like, this is the most relatable thing I've ever seen in my life on this show. Because she was so awkward and uncomfortable and so unsure of herself.
Yeah.
And she just didn't do it. And the moment he got in, and like how he got in the car, the whole thing was so cringe to me, because like you could just tell how uncomfortable she was. And he got in the car and he left, and you could just look at the look on her face, and she knew like, I just screwed that up so much.
Yeah.
And she's just like, I regret that. And
do you think if she were to say, you know, I love you or I'm falling in love with you, I guess without going to the end also, would that have built the trust up, or you think the trust was already broken at that point and it was like the trust is just gone? Okay. Yeah.
I think
there's nothing that she could have done at that point to repair the trust.
I think she personally would have felt a lot better about herself, because, you know, she gave it her all and didn't screw up. Mm-hmm. But I think she was doomed after last week. Like, that was it for her. She hit his biggest insecurity, you know, on accident or whatever. And, you know, that's the price you pay sometimes when you do that. And like, it sucks, but you know, that's how it goes sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, anything else about Maria's hometown date? I mean, there wasn't, it was kind of.
I mean, it went way better than I thought it would. Honestly.
Yeah, true. I agree. I completely agree.
But just her, like, oh my gosh, I just, like, I couldn't take it. It was, because I literally was, like, watching his career. I'm like, don't do it, Maria. You have to do this.
Yeah. So
I knew she wanted to. And she was just, like, pausing and, like, and, you know, there was that pause. And you can see, like, the gears are going, like, a billion miles an hour. And, you know, she's like, this, like, I have to say this.
Yeah.
And she just couldn't do it.
Do you think that's how she felt?
Definitely.
Okay.
I don't have a doubt in my mind.
Couldn't say it because
she's scared.
Yeah. Okay.
And I mean, Joey.
Do you think she was like, I messed up and I feel like I can't say this because I'm embarrassed, or I can't say this because it's going to come off like desperate?
I think she's scared. Honestly, like, I just don't think she had the confidence in her to do it. I mean,
which is interesting. It's interesting to see her in a vulnerable state, because this whole time she's been like one of the most confident, or what seemed to be one of the most confident contestants.
I think that's what she puts off. I don't think that's how she is. Mm-hmm. And her family kind of even said as much.
That's true. And it's hard to compare, because I feel like Daisy is very confident in herself and Rachel is very confident in herself as well. And you can tell, but they're like a soft confidence.
Yeah.
You know? They aren't like an in-your-face confidence.
Maria acts that way, but I don't think that's actually how she is.
Yeah.
I think she's
and you've said that before.
She's
too.
very, very afraid for whatever reason, and that's why she never brought anybody home. That's why she doesn't really share that stuff. That's why she doesn't share how she feels. She's afraid. Mm-hmm. And that's why I don't think she could do it.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, oh, Maria, why would you do this to yourself?
Yeah.
So I don't think it would have changed anything besides making herself feel better.
Right. Yeah. So, is it time to talk about the rose ceremony?
It is time, yeah.
Okay. So, you know, the girls come out.
Who's your favorite dress?
Well, so Rachel, her dress was just very plain. It was like plain black.
Yeah.
Spaghetti strap. And then, Maria had like this purple kind of sparkly stringy dress. Well, whatever, strings on it. No.
No, okay.
Kelsey had the boobs were weird.
Well, all the girls are taking turns doing that. It's just like
true.
It's just
so game. I mean, I guess I have to go with Daisy. The other thing is, like, Daisy I think was wearing stilettos, and every other girl was wearing like short, kind of like chunky heels. And I get that that's in,
But you're not.
But it's just, I'm just not, maybe I'm like getting older, but that just style, is just, I don't know.
I mean, Maria's not that far off from you.
Of the string? Oh, age-wise?
Yeah.
Well, and her, I could see, like, I could be like, oh, I could see how that outfit would be, like, fashionable. It's just, like, not my vibe,
Yeah.
But, the chunky heels are in. That's what the girls are doing.
Not
and
you,
they're probably a lot more comfortable than the stilettos, so.
They definitely are. There's no way they're not.
Respect for that. So I guess that just leaves Daisy. What about you?
I feel like I found Maria's the most interesting, so I think I'll go with that.
Okay, I would agree. Hers was very interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like wired in.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is what's in now. It's like, I don't know.
Okay.
Unless somebody tells me, or like, unless my sister tells me, or then like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I pretend like, oh yeah, I know so much.
I know everything. Well, and it was cool to be in this, plane museum or
They've
something?
done that before. They've done that exact thing before. I
Right.
remember that scene.
I feel like I've seen that before, but it was beautiful.
I mean, it still looked good, but I know they've done it before.
Yeah. So I like that. It was kind of just random insignificance, but it probably is always kind of random insignificance and that. But that was cool to see. So Joey, well, I guess Maria pulled him this time. So last rose ceremony, he pulled her. Mm-hmm. So you think he pulled her because he was like, this is your final shot. Can I trust you?
I think, he was going to give it to her anyway.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But unless she said something bad, then he was going to dump her. But I think he knew that she wouldn't say that. So he just had to do it. And it's the same thing with Maria here. She had to do it. Otherwise, because otherwise she would have always regretted. She still does anyway, I think. But she had to do that. And so I don't blame her for doing that. But obviously he was going to dump her anyway at that point.
Yeah.
Do you not agree?
I was still I'm still to this moment hoping Maria comes back, or hoping that after the final rose, he's like, surprise, I'm with Maria. That's where my head's at. I'm still full blown Maria.
I'm a big fan, but I just so yeah, it sounds like you disagree with me. I think she screwed herself after that last week. And that was it.
Yeah. I didn't think about the trust thing. If you take someone's insecurity and feed it on a silver platter to them, yeah, you're kind of done.
Yeah.
So I didn't think about the trust thing until you said that, but I do agree with that. I did not think she was going to go home. No way. 0% of me
I knew
thought.
She was screwed.
I thought he was still going to keep trying, still going to keep fighting. He's been fighting and trying this whole time, as he discussed when he was breaking up with her, saying, I've been fighting for you. I'm kind of done fighting for you. And I see where he's coming from. But kind of what I talked about with Lexi leaving is I love a good, I'm going to fight for you. And I love you, And I was like, maybe this is that story, but there's a limit. And then he reached his limit.
I see why you hope that, and everybody wants it to happen, but that doesn't seem to happen that much. Unfortunately.
True.
Or maybe fortunately, I don't know. But it's rough.
Yeah.
But
yep.
Yeah, I think she just accidentally stepped on a landmine with her own insecurity, and that cost her. So I think that was it for her, and you're still holding on for that hope.
Yeah, I know I'm delusional. I already know that, but
it's okay. We've all been there.
Yeah. So, because I think it came down to Rachel and Rachel and Maria, and I was like, oh, I saw this coming. We knew Rachel. I thought Rachel was going to go home last week. She's going to go home this week. And then when he said Rachel's name, I was like, hold up, what?
There was no way Maria wasn't going to be last, for sure, if she was going to get a rose.
Oh, okay.
You didn't think, she had to be the third one, right? Because she was
absolutely.
the most questionable one.
Absolutely.
So there's no way they wouldn't have let her be last.
Yeah, because I think we both agreed, well, Kelsey A and Daisy I mean, I think you kind of got on board. You kind of thought Jen was going to be there, but I mean,
Yeah,
I feel
I was
like
wrong.
with Jen, yeah.
I mean, the ordering, I think, is like their stack ranking to him, honestly.
Okay, because I feel like I've asked you this before. So you think it's not relevant until kind of this point? Or do you think it's always relevant?
I don't think it's usually relevant, but I think this time around it was. Like, I think he likes Daisy the most and Kelsey and then Rachel. But honestly, like, I've been wrong about Rachel this entire season. Maybe she's the favorite. I don't know. But I don't know. I just, like, after Maria screwed that up and didn't tell him how she felt, I knew she was done.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, him explaining why he was breaking up with her to her, kind of just, what's your take on that? Just like, yeah, I saw that coming.
I mean, was it that great of a like explanation to her? Not really, no. But they're never really that good.
Right. And it's such a short period of time that you can't really, there's not really much you can say.
And she was shut down at that point anyway. So she's just like, yeah, I get it, and left. Which obviously.
Well, yeah. And she wasn't as emotional in the car as I thought she would be.
Yeah, and her whole explanation there was like, at first she's like, I don't understand it, and then you could see she's thinking about it for a few more seconds, and then she identified exactly what the problem was. She was like, I should have said something and I didn't, and I regret it. And like, that was the nail in the coffin for her. Even if you don't think, which I think you don't think that what happened last week would have hurt her, both of those combined was it. There's no way she could have made it out of that alive.
Yeah, I know. I'm devastated about it. Do you think that we'll see Maria again?
Oh, yeah. She's way too good for TV to like.
Yeah, she's great TV.
I mean, chances are, I mean, I could see he really likes her. Like, he just has some like attraction to her that he doesn't with anybody else. So
yeah, but you know how Peter Weber is like dating. Well, he was dating this girl who was on his season, who he kicked off like halfway through the season.
Yeah.
And they're like on and off dating. And I'm like, is this going to be a Joey Maria situation? You know,
I think he really likes her. Like, he just has that attraction to her that like none of them else have.
Right. Because I feel like on their shopping date, he was like the most giddy and excited I've seen him on any date.
Yeah, I think I think just like who he's naturally most drawn to. I'm not sure if that's the person he had the most like connection to, but it's hard to say. I really don't know. I mean, they had so many problems because, you know, Maria's the villain and whatever. That I don't know if they really were ever able, and Maria's scared, so she wasn't really ever able to get into like, you know, whatever was going on.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have Rachel, Kelsey A, and Daisy.
Yeah.
So moving into next week, possible fantasy suites, what do you think is going to happen there?
Well, I mean, there's that elephant in the room, right, of that we need to talk.
Yes. Who do you think wrote that?
I mean, how they edit it, it feels like it's Daisy because she's always the first person they show. But I feel like it is probably Daisy.
Okay.
And that means like one of two things, right? Either A, that means that she's like, oh, I just wanted to tell you that I love you.
Okay.
Or that means I'm dumping you. Those are the only two things it means.
Okay. I think it's Kelsey A.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And I think it's Kelsey A. I think Kelsey A talked a lot about, you know, kind of like in sickness and in health, which, you know, Daisy did too, right? Because I mean, she'd been through that. But so it's interesting because I feel like Daisy and Kelsey A are kind of really focused on that in sickness and health, right? And Daisy because of her own personal experience, and Kelsey A because of her own personal experience with her mom, you know, and watching her dad step up. And, you know, so I think that Kelsey A wrote the note, and I think she more wrote it to sit down and have a conversation saying like, you know, I'm kind of spiraling. I'm kind of like losing emotional control a little bit.
Oh, you don't think she's going to dump him over it?
No, I think she's just kind of going to like get in her head and just need to like talk some things out. And then I think they're going to talk everything out, and it's just going to be this built up thing that's not really that big of a deal.
I mean, there's some credit to that purely because they always make a big deal out of something that's not. But I just can't help but think anytime you say to somebody in a relationship, we need to talk, what does that mean? you're going to dump him.
I mean,
that's literally happened to me.
Oh God.
Like a long time ago, but PTSD. That's happened to me. And so like that's what it means to me. And
okay.
I mean, because it's like you're not going to say like right there in some note like, oh, I'm going to dump you,
right?
But it's just like, hey, I want to tell you that my intentions are like pretty negative,
right? Okay. I mean, yeah, I think that if anything, maybe at the end he chooses Daisy, and then Daisy is like, I can't do this.
Do you think she's winner?
I mean, what the reason why I don't want to commit to saying that is because if she is the winner, well, I have been. You've been right several times.
I've been also wrong several times.
If she's the winner, I find it very difficult for her to be the Bachelorette. And I've been team Bachelorette for her since like day one, right? But if she goes up and then she dumps Joey, it seems odd. I feel like then if she becomes the Bachelorette, it's like, well, is she ready for marriage? Well, why didn't she commit to Joey? You know, all this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously she could still commit to being married and want to be in a relationship and just not be into Joey. I mean, that's obviously possible, right? Or maybe her and Joey in an overnight kind of have like a controversial conversation. And she's like, this is a deal breaker for me, that whatever, right? So that's why I don't want to commit to her being the winner. But that being said, honestly, because Maria left, I am so lost.
You're shattered.
I am completely shattered. And like I said, I'm still holding on to Maria coming back and winning. And that's who I think is going to win still, even though she got kicked off.
I think she might win in the long run, but she's not winning this show.
Yeah. And I think if she came back, he'd still be like, come on now. You know? And if she came back and he let her back, imagine the other contestants. They'd be like,
it's over.
The trust is completely gone at this point. Like, we might as well walk away, you know, if you're going to take her back. So, I mean, there's no way that she's going to come back, and I understand that. But I literally am so shocked that I can't even pick who would be up
hopium,
there.
Yeah.
You know?
The big hopium, yeah.
I mean, I guess if I had to say, you know, Kelsey A. But again, it's because I want Daisy to be the Bachelorette, and I can't imagine the person winning and being the Bachelorette. That doesn't make sense to me.
Just think, well, something happened that's never happened before.
True.
I think it's, I mean, I'm just telling you, I think it's going to be Daisy. Do you think it's going to be a big problem? Because Rachel's talking about, you know, like the fantasy suites or intimacy or whatever. You think that's going to be a problem for her?
Is she talking about intimacy with the other girls?
Well, she's just like, it's hard to do this when I know you're with two other people.
I think looking at who I think Joey is, I think that he'll have overnight dates with them, but I don't think he's going to have sex with any of them.
I feel like that's probably right. I mean, and honestly, I'm surprised that this hasn't become more common, like a lot more recently. Because, like, I mean, I don't see how anybody would be like, oh, yeah, I feel great about that.
Right.
Like, I just.
But you have a lot of dumb bachelors out there that kind of don't really think this through.
Well, everybody's been doing it up until like recently, where people were like, yeah, I don't know if I should or I shouldn't.
True.
And it's
True.
Like, and it just seems like, yeah, I feel like it'd be kind of bothersome to be, you know, the other people.
Yeah. So here's another side note, kind of behind the scenes question. If they have these dates, number one, do they have these dates all in a row?
Oh my gosh, I hope not.
And number two, if you're staying up all night talking to someone, whether who knows what's going on behind the scenes, and regardless of what's happening behind the scenes, how are you staying up all night, every night for 3 nights in a row? You know, that just doesn't seem like possible. For the third person is kind of screwed no matter what.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't know the order. I mean, Maria went last on this episode, but that doesn't mean she was the last one to go. Mm-hmm. She could have been the first one to go. Mm-hmm. He didn't say anything that suggested the ordering.
Right.
And obviously they don't know.
And so, I do feel like they changed the order
for
whatever reason. You know?
Who knows? I mean, obviously she should have been last, at least in the TV sense, because it's the most interesting one.
Right, yeah.
But that doesn't mean she was last. And I mean, the same thing could happen with these, you know, overnight dates. I don't know. I mean, but here's the tell. while you're watching this episode, you need to look at his face. How much of his soul is gone?
Yes.
And that's how you know how quickly these have happened in succession.
Okay, true. Also, though, when they said I'm falling in love with you, I tried to look at his face to see if he's like, thank you for telling me that. But I feel like every time he was like, thank you for telling me that.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think he really is that into any of them.
Right. I feel like these people that he kicked off, maybe the first couple people that were like, I'm falling for you, that he obviously wasn't into because they kicked him off. He was more excited to hear that from them. And maybe it was just because it was like, no one said this. This is awesome. This is exciting. This is new. And maybe now it's like, oh God, it's scary they said that. Because maybe it's also like, oh, it's scary they said that because now I might hurt them, and I'm going to hurt them more because now they're like falling in love. Or, so maybe it's more that, like, he's like, oh, yikes,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard because like I've said a million times, he's not like the other people.
Right.
And like, I'm still Team Joey, but
Yeah.
I'm just not seeing it that he's too into any of these people. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just not seeing it anymore.
Yeah. So what's your prediction for next week? And what do you think the order of the overnight dates will be? And what's the order of, in his mind, of who's his number one, who's his number three?
Rachel's probably going to be like in his preference or just
In,
the ordering it goes on.
Well, number one, like the overnight dates, like what order are they going to go in? And then number two, what do you think, like the order in his mind of like, oh, this is my number one, this is my number two, this is my number three?
Rachel's going to go first because I think that's why she's going to say, hey, this isn't going to be a problem if you, see these other people or, see or whatever. I think she's going to go first or we're going to see her first. And then
Okay.
I think it'll probably be Daisy and then Kelsey. I think Daisy wrote the letter, so she's going to have some time to stew in her anxiety.
Okay.
What order do you think?
I could see Rachel going first because I think that, like we've been saying this whole time, I think Rachel's going to go home, but who knows? But that's just what I think. And so I think she's going to go home, and I think she's going to go first because I think he's going to save the two people that he's really trying to decide between for the end, if that makes sense, right? I think he's kind of like, okay, Rachel, great, moving on now, this is going to be hard. And I think he's going to want those two back to back to like really compare. I think it's going to be Kelsey A number one, Daisy number two, Rachel number three.
Honestly, hot take, Rachel's going to win this.
Okay. I wouldn't doubt it. We've been wrong about Rachel for weeks at this point.
That's the only reason I'm saying that. Like, she's just come out of nowhere and, like, good for her. Hot take, she's going to win it. Purely just off of that. We'll see if I'm right or wrong, but I'm just going purely off of that. She keeps on coming out of left field and winning, so.
Yeah.
You go, girl, and we'll see how that goes.
Right. Do you think that... So, do they meet his family?
I think that's only the top two, right?
Okay, so that wouldn't be until a different episode then?
Yeah, because it's going to be top three and then, or Fantasy Suites, then the Women Tell All. And
yeah.
My least favorite episode.
I know, gosh. Shot. It's like Susie Luhu, who got kicked off night one, wants to advertise her lipstick brand.
And we don't care. How do you feel about it? And then they're always like, bad. And it's just
right.
like, yeah, why wouldn't they?
Right.
I hate that episode.
You were there for 5 minutes. God, I know it's the worst. But
and then the second, the top two, which the final rose, which is the final one, that's where they meet the parents and then he dumps one of them. Or in this case, I think he's going to get dumped.
Oh, they meet the parents and they win.
I mean, it's 2 hours long, right? So they have
True.
to go on one more one-on-one and then.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to get dumped, so.
I know. I think that too. So it's kind of like, well, nobody's really going to win. And then he'll go back to Maria. What if he goes on Paradise?
Ugh, I feel like that's not a victory lap. That's a loser lap.
Oh my God, that would be crazy.
And what if Maria's there too? That'd be funny.
Oh my God.
That would be something because they would hook up right away.
Yeah. But then imagine another contestant like Kelsey A or Daisy is also on Paradise.
That would be good.
It would
TV,
be like a rerun. That would
cringe.
be wild. Wow.
Yeah. So you have any final thoughts?
No, this was a hot take. This was a great episode. I mean, I'm excited to see what else happens. So is Women Tell All next week then?
No, it's Fantasy Suite. Then I think it's Women Tell All. That's normally how they do it.
Okay. So Fantasy Suite. Okay. It's going to be another spicy episode.
I sure hope so.
Any final takes for you?
Nope. I think I've already said enough this episode.
Okay. We really opened up in this episode. With a lot of comments. So I hope you guys appreciate that. And I also hope that you accept our rose.